has made many big claims in today's debate. Like, for example, Parliament can be paid to legislate, or Parliament can be paid to choose the next leader, without actually ever making the comparative on why their side is so much better. We believe that because we're the team that is giving you comparatives on why the executive is much less democratic and much less competent and much worse elected, we believe we take this debate. And I'm going to analyze this debate through the lens of three main clashes. Firstly, on competency, secondly, on who campaigns better, and as well as accountability, and thirdly, on minority parties. So, firstly, in terms of competency, we have this big clash on who gets to elect the better head of state, right? We told you that there are internal checks and balances, and something that they've never really engaged with in today's debate is the people who elect the prime minister are those who have worked with that prime minister, with that person, are those who have seen the changes that he has instituted, for example, when he was a member of the cabinet. They need to engage with this, the reason being that this is a better form of democracy. Yes, perhaps it's less, no thank you, direct, but we think on the whole, given that fact, people whom you choose to be the prime minister will be better, right? The fact that Michael Gove was voted out of that competition, the fact that Andrea Leadsom, the person who is an evangelical Christian, was voted out of that election, shows you that they are able to make good decisions. What did they tell you? No. What did they tell you? They told you, oh, okay, you have to toe the party line. Firstly, that's empirically untrue. We see the fact that many times people are divided on who to choose means that they don't necessarily toe the party line. Like the fact that you have to choose the prime minister in the first place, no thank you, or choose the cabinet member, shows that perhaps that you cannot really toe the party line because there is no party line to toe. Furthermore, we would tell you that, like, insofar as you think that people toe the party line and you think that's bad, right? Then what is the point of representative democracy or legislature on your side in the first place, right? Under their side, presumably they support the legislature, but on that side, the legislature still exists and people still toe the party line. So we don't see why it is so much better on their side of the house. Then they told us in their second speech, oh,
what's up?
No, you need to be popular with MPs. You can pay them. Like, we think that happens on executive democracies as a whole, right? The difference is, on a parliamentary democracy, you have loads of MPs that you need to be able to satisfy, right? You have loads of MPs that you need to be able to toe to, whereas with an executive, you only have that one person who you can influence to make decisions. We think that's so much better because the executive, on their side of the house, can steamroll any decisions, right? And in terms of, like, backroom deals, like, on both sides of the house, we don't think, like, either of us support any backroom deals at all. We think it's worse on their side as well. Furthermore, they told you, oh, okay, in their second speech, you can vote for a Democrat for the House of Representatives or in Congress. No, and you can support a Republican for the executive branch. Never telling us why a voter would actually ever want to do this. No, thank you. But furthermore, this just makes the situation even worse, right? Because what it leads to is a situation wherein Congress becomes conflicted with the executive state. What happens there is that Congress might not pass what the executive wants to pass. The executive, no thank you, might not want to pass whatever Congress wants to pass through its veto powers, and eventually your views, despite the fact that they are bipartisan, will not get passed in the first place, right? So in that sense, we don't think this whole idea that you can split the ticket, as they say, is beneficial for their side. Now, that's on competent leaders. Let's talk about the idea of veto power. Yes.
Here's why a voter would want two different types of policies. Because UKIP provides their immigration criteria for successful policy, but not their economic. Tell us how in the UK that works.
No, we told you that when you have veto power, then neither of those gets passed because those two sides of the House are conflicted with each other. Tell me why it is that those will get passed, right? Furthermore, in terms of competency, right, we told you that vetoes are harmful and inherently undemocratic. We told you there's a big man able to quash or delay legislation in the House of Representatives or in Congress, right? We told you that's incredibly harmful because key legislation is slowed down. They told you and came up here on their side of the House to tell you, oh, you get gridlocks on our side of the House too. You get things like coalitions, right? Well, maybe. But on the comparative, what you have on their side of the House is an executive who goes against the popular will of the people because that legislature is trying to pass legislation, right? The reason why this is harmful is when you have things like bipartisan support for a piece of legislation and you allow the executive to quash that, you remove any form of deliberation, no thank you, that both sides of the House can partake in. We think think that's incredibly harmful in terms of passing legislation quickly. On our side of the House, when you have parties conflicting against each other, that's at least democratic. That's at least representative of people, right? So, in terms of national interest, they told you that executives are better because national interests, no thank you, and policies can be furthered. Well, we told you that national interests are made up of regional interests as well. Why it is that 49% of people who did not vote for Barack Obama cannot influence the national interest or national policy making, we think is harmful. When you have parliamentary democracy, you have different regional constituencies able to have their say, no thank you, on how national interests are held. When you have a single senator from Illinois who is the executive, we don't think you get that sort of representation. Furthermore, they told you that like people don't campaign big ticket, like sort of higher level, national level promises or policies in a parliamentary democracy. That's not true. When you have a parliamentary democracy, you have an incentive to talk about those national interests because you don't have an executive that you want to elect, right? And so as a party, you have to forward that sort of message, right? So, that's why democracies on our side of the House are much more competent. In terms of who campaigns better, we told you that when you put a certain person in the spotlight, a certain person from like a single state to campaign for executive power, we told you that that is going to lead to things like populism. Because it's much easier to appeal to people from other states through your personality because of the fact that they have not seen you commit that change wherever they are, right? And they told you, oh, there's nothing wrong with democracy based on populism. Really? We think that when people are able to invoke personality politics to the point where they divert from real issues, when they're able to peddle hatred, when they're able to pass bad legislation when they're on an executive stage, we think that's incredibly harmful, right? You look at people like Boris Yeltsin when Russia became democratic. We think demagogues like that are incredibly harmful. On our side of the House, you have multiple people from regional constituencies, right? They have to show the public that they have a good record and that they are more competent, whereas on the national level, they become demagogues. We think that's incredibly harmful. So, on the idea of minority parties, right? And they totally missed the ball on this one because they told you that if you're a minority, you should be less represented, right? We think, okay, that's dangerous logic that you're going into there because we think minority interests should be protected from majoritarian rule. But our point was this, right? That it's important for you to be able to support minority parties, you're out of order, minority parties in parliament. The reason being that oftentimes minority parties are signals of changing trends or deviations from the norm, deviations from the current status quo in terms of like the major parties at the time, right? Our point was this, that when you have those minority parties in a parliamentary democracy, the majority party is incentivized to cooperate with them in order to be able to pass legislation. When you have an executive, that doesn't happen because of the fact that the party who is in Congress can rely on the executive to veto anything. And so in that sense, minority parties are better. So in terms of accountability, we believe that we get more representation on our side of the House. And we believe we get more competency on our side of the House as well, because you have leaders who are actually efficient, who do not pander to populism. Thank you.